Hello everyone, welcome back to Explore China, Tanzur Zhongguo. And today we're going to look at the central bank in China, the People's Bank of China, or in Chinese, the中国人民银行. And I think first, let's have a look at the financial regulatory system in China overall. So at the top left, you can see the three red bodies, and these are bodies of the Communist Party in China, from the 中华人民共和国 中国 Gongchangdang, Gongchangdang. So you have the Politburo on top with 25 members, then the Central Committee and the CCDI, the Central Commission for Discipline Inspection. And all the blue things is basically the government and the financial regulatories. So with the State Council on top, this is the executive body, the Guobo-Yuan with the different ministries. Below it sits the Financial Stability and Development Commission, or short the FSDC, and in Chinese it's the Jinrong Wending Yu Fajian Weiyuan Hui. And it was founded in 2017 as like a body which can have decent macroeconomic control and can coordinate the different own regulatory bodies, such as the People's Bank of China, the 中国人民银行, the China Banking and Insurance Regulatory Commission. In the following, it will be abbreviated as CBIRC. Then you have the SAFE, the State Administration of Foreign Exchange, the China Securities Regulatory Commission, and the Ministry of Finance. Some people said, okay, the Ministry of Finance does not sit below the FSDC, but it definitely is one part of the State Council. So you have these five bodies all under the FSDC. Then we will focus on the People's Bank of China on the left, and the 中国人民银行, and below it's now also the new founded Digital Currency Research Institute, which is focusing on research on the digital currency electronic payment system in China, which is dealing with the yuan. Then you have non-banks, Fei Yinhang. This is like a Caiwu Gongsi, all companies who are dealing with credits or trusted loans and investments, or asset managing companies are sitting in here, or from municipalities, from local governments, their capital management companies, I think, are also regarded as non-banks. Then you have the banks, the Inhang. You have, of course, the Guoyou Inhang is the state-owned banks, such as the big fours, like the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, the Agricultural Bank of China, the BOC, the Bank of China, and the Construction Bank of China. Then you have policy banks, the Zhengzi Inhang. The three big ones are the Agricultural Development Bank of China, the China Export-Import Bank, and China Development Bank. And you have other commercial banks, the Shangye Inhang, and then you have insurance companies and stock markets and bond markets, where the other regulatory systems look after. Then the FSDC with currently 8 members, and you can see inside the FSDC is the governor of the PBOC, Yi Gang, and Liu He, the vice prime minister and member of the Politburo, the current chairman of the FSDC. And what I want to point out is also like Guo Shuqing, chairman of the CBIRC, and Pan Gongshan, he is chairman of SAFE and the vice chairman of the PBOC. So here you have high political cadres and members of the State Council, such as Ding Xuedong, and the chairmen of the regulatory bodies I just introduced here, of the CBIRC and SAFE and PBOC. So you can see it's like really a connecting macro body. And then here we can switch to the Monetary Policy Committee, which each year, I think annually 4 times, meets each quarter and discusses about monetary policy implementations. And here you can see you have 14 members currently, Yi Gang as the governor, and then also Pan Gongshan is a member here again, and Guo Shuqing is a member, and the chairman of the CSRC again. So you can see how much interconnected these bodies are. and also with the government. And now to the main tasks of the People's Bank of China. There are many tasks, but I will focus on the main 5. And these are of course, the货币政策, the monetary policy, with focus on the price stability, as it says in the central bank law of China, that the main task of the central bank is to maintain price stability in order to promote economic growth. So I have included here as well stable economic growth, then low unemployment, and you could say other goals also include the main goals of the Chinese government in general. Then you have macroprudential policy. This is Hongguan Shenshan Zhongzi, came up after the world financial crisis 2008-2009, where central banks noticed, okay, we need more macroeconomic control. So here the central banks does ratings, etc. Then you have statistics as quality, reporting and making sure of targeting the interest rates and monetary aggregate 2. AFRE, this is the aggregate financing to the real economy, though this is the whole financing to the economy, to the society. And you have the payment system management, which controls like the money flow and does anti-money laundering. And you have a lot of research now currently also going on with the digital currency electronic payment. And long-term goals of the People's Bank of China include, as it is written in the China Financial Stability Report of 2020 and on the webpage of the People's Bank of China, is these Liu Wen, Liu Bao. This is like a little bit of like a propaganda goals which should be maintained, but it's still also goals which are really strived after. And now to the goals and instruments the PBOC uses in contrast to what other central banks around the world are using. And first of all, to the long-term goals. So in China, it's, as in the law, it's written, the price stability, and by thus promoting economic growth. It actually, in the laws of the ECB and the Fed, you have 1 or 2 more goals than just the price stability and economic growth. You also have, like in the case of the ECB, without endangering the price stability, you can also, the ECB should also focus on promote economic growth values, European values and employment, and better economic and environmental standards, etc. The law apart, you have in China still the fact, as it's can be seen in its implemented instruments and policies, that you have many more goals to the price stability. So basically, goals include all of the government goals, such as the climate neutrality until 2060. And these are always given explicit or implicit by the State Council, the Central Committee, or the FSDC. Like I said, the 6 stabilities and 6 guarantees. Sorry for the spelling mistake here. And then you have the internationalizing of the renminbi. I think it's also since 2009 like a big targeted goal. Then medium-term goals. Actually, in the most central banks, I think there are no specific medium-term goals. Maybe some inflation targets. In China, there you have you had for a long time more specific goals in the like annual settings, which are also by the PBOC and the State Council defined for inflation, M2, the aggregate financing to the real economy, also called the total social financing, and the exchange rate. And operational goals include the base money and the 7-day repo interest rate, while for other advanced economic countries, their central banks just target mostly overnight rates, and they are measuring the bought and sold assets. And now to the instruments, and that's where the biggest difference is maybe, is that in China, they're using a lot of quantity and price-based instruments like open market operations, changes in the reserve requirement ratios, administrative guidance, also called as window guidance. And you have lending facilities, of course, like medium-term ones and standing lending facilities, loan prime rate. This is like the main policy rate in China, and interest rates on repos and others. And on the other side, for the ECB or the Fed, they mostly target their open market, mostly do open market operations or changes in interest rates on facilities or on these repos. Now to the rules. Does China have a major monetary policy rule which it targets its monetary policy after? So basically there are two main rules. This is the Taylor rule and the McCallum-Rule. Well, the Taylor rule is implying a real interest rate which the central bank could set for its monetary policy. So this is what the European Central Bank could take as its policy rate. On the other hand, you have the McCallum Rule, which is focusing, as you can see, this M is standing for the monetary aggregate, which is focusing on the money supply. And this is a big difference. And in China, most scholars say that you have like a hybrid rule, or the new hybrid Taylor rule. And as you can see, in China, they are being used a lot of quantity-based instruments and price-based instruments. And the quantity-based instruments include the central bank credit quotas, or the loan-to-deposit ratio, reserve requirement ratios, open market operations. This means at the open market, the central bank buys or sells securities, and mostly bonds. And then you have medium-term lending facilities, just like to supply banks with liquidity over a certain period of time. Then you have the standing lending facilities. These are more expensive, so you have higher interest rates on these lending facilities, and they are for really short-term urgent demand. And you have window guidance. This is an interesting topic because it's like administrative guidance, not officially publicated statements, but only between central bank officials and mostly the state-owned commercial banks. So the Guo Yuan, in the window guidance, the central bankers can implement their policies by just telling them and commanding the banks to do so in order to get their money supply with loan quotas or loan to deposit ratios. And then you have also pledged supplementary lending. This is one kind of facility where the central bank is giving credit to the policy banks in China. And I would also take it's closely regarded to the window guidance, because it's like a steering and a precise implementing of giving liquidity to certain sectors for certain projects. And then, of course, you have the price-based instruments, the货币政策, where you have mostly interest rates on the reserve requirement ratios and active reserves, on the loan prime rate, the 1-year benchmark rate, and you also have the interest rates on lending facilities and the DR007. So this is again the rate, the reserve repo rate for the bond market on repos. Now let's have a look at the different instruments. And as I said, the reserve requirement ratio is changing a lot in China, and did change a lot. Especially you can see from 2008 onwards, you have a sharp trend upwards. And this is due to a massive increase in liquidity in China. And the central bank tried first of all with bonds to dry out this this excessive liquidity, because China, as you know, exports a lot. So you have a huge inflow of foreign currency, and then they implemented these sterilization reserve requirement ratios. Then also a short drop after the expansionary monetary policy to counter the 2009 2009 crisis, and then again a peak with 21% in 2011, I think, and after then a short decline. And then you have the 1 year benchmark rate. This is like the loan prime rate on the left side, which is set with a consortium of 18 banks, and the medium-term lending facility rate. And on the right, you can see also the loan prime rate for 5 years on the top, and for 1 year at the bottom, the blue line. And in China, as in other countries, you also have like a corridor, an interest rate corridor, with on the bottom being the excess, the interest rate on excess reserves, and on the top you have the interest rate on the standing lending facilities, because they are the most expensive. Yeah, and then to the lending facilities, for me it's also interesting to see that the pledged supplementary lending, so the lending facilities giving to policy banks in China is such big, and almost as big as the medium-term lending facilities. And again, the short-term lending facilities you can see at the top are quite little. And in the end, I would like to give you a first impression on the analysis of the effectiveness of the monetary policy in China. So here you can see 4 graphs. You have the inflation, the average wages in renminbi, and the GDP growth and unemployment rate. As stated in the law of the central bank, the goal is to maintain low inflation, so price stability, in order to promote GDP growth. And if we compare and have a look at these 2 graphs on the left, so on inflation and the GDP growth, we can see, okay, we have low inflation and we have a stable GDP growth, as it's known under the new normal. Then we can see in 2020 Q1, the first quarter, we have a sharp decline, but then already in 2021, first quarter, sharp increase again. I think it was 18% set annual growth compared to the last year GDP growth. Average wages are also growing, and the unemployment rate, I think, it was kind of fixed, or maybe not realistic numbers until 2018, because like such a complete stable unemployment rate around 4% is a little bit unrealistic. But after that, I think now 5.5% might be pretty realistic. And compared again to other countries, like other BRICS countries, Brazil, India, South Africa, or also to Spain, maybe, all these figures look quite good. And this is why I would say that the central bank in China, all in all, does a quite good job, and its monetary policy can be regarded as effective. And now during the COVID-19, which is maybe also interesting, is that you have here, I show you the most and main implemented monetary policies during COVID-19. These are changes in the reverse repos, so like an increase in open market operations, then increase in open market operations by medium-term lending facilities, reducing the interest rate on these OMOs, and then you have more China-specific ones. These are like reducing the loan prime rate, reducing the reserve requirement ratios, I think it was by 0.5%, then a cutting interest rate on excess reserves, and special central bank credits. This is something which I think did not happen in the European Central Bank. So that means for the case of fighting against the pandemic, the central bank gave much cheaper credits to many banks in order to provide assistance for goods and credits to these in these fields. Then you have buying of credits, especially in support of the small and medium-sized enterprises. The central bank said it will buy many loans given from banks to small and medium-sized enterprises, which were also not secured. And then you have a window guidance in form of commands to policy banks, and you have also a new tool. Okay, actually this tool was used since 2018, but also used during 2020 a lot, this central bank swaps. And this was my short presentation here about the financial system in China and especially the central bank. And I hope you liked this short video. I hope to make more videos in the future again. And this is it for now, and goodbye. Have a nice day.